Okay, so the shape that you're making today, the shape of a quadratic function is called a parabola. The shape of quadratic functions is called a parabola. Yes. Sounds like a personal problem. Okay, so quadratics. We just talked about identifying them. And one of the identification pieces, the first piece, is that, Evangeline, is that the exponent is 2. So, because x squared is in the equation, when we graph, we pick the values to put in for x. We pick what numbers we're going to substitute. We pick the values we're going to substitute. And because x squared is in the equation, if I pick the number 5 to substitute for x, what's 5 squared? 25. Do you want to graph 25? The numbers get big fast. So you're clicking along graphing, and you're always graphing number 5 because you're superstitious and that's your favorite number. Well, if you're substituting 5 in these equations, you're going to get really big numbers really quickly. So my advice to you is to stay between -3 and 3. I mean, even 3 sometimes gets you in trouble. Because 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9. And that's, I mean, at the edge of your graph. Also, when you substitute, what should you always use when substituting? What? What? Parentheses. Whenever you put a number into an equation, it should go inside parentheses. Tall and skinny, vertical. Yellow paper should be vertical. Fold top to bottom. And here's my quadratic function. Y equals 2x squared. We open it up. Y equals 2x squared. Alright, so we're going to pick 4 values to substitute. I'm going to pick -2, 1, 0, 1. Good call. -2, -1, 0, and 1. So in the middle, I substitute. So 2x squared, so 2, and then instead of x, -2 squared. All right, parentheses first, exponents first, right? -2 squared. -2 times -2 is +4. Times 2 is 8. Then again, 2, and then instead of x this time, I'm putting -1 squared. -1 squared, so -1 times -1 is +1. Times 2, 2. Two x squared, so 2, and this time is 0 squared. 0 squared, 0 times 0 is 0, times 2 is 0. Multiplicative property of 0, anything times 0 equals. And 1 squared, 1 times 1 is 1, times 2 is. Good. Now you've got your graph. We'll glue it down in a second. Let's graph our points. Let's plot the points. The first ordered pair is -2, 8. The second ordered pair is -1, 2. Third ordered pair is 0, 0. And fourth is 1, 2. Now, parabolas are curved. There are no straight lines in a parabola. So you have to be a little artsy when you're connecting these dots, because it's a U. It's a curved shape. And then a little bit of glue on the bottom. A little bit of glue on the back.
Extra glue.
All right, second yellow tab. Second yellow tab, y equals -2x squared. Y equals -2x squared. Y equals -2x squared. Y equals -2x squared. So we're going to do the same thing, except my equation is different this time, correct? So y equals -2x squared goes in the middle. I'm going to use the same x values. -2, -1, 0, and 1. So I'm substituting, so -2x squared. So -2, and then instead of x, I'm putting -2 squared. -2 squared, so -2 times -2 is +4, times -2 is -8. Then -2x squared, so this time it's -2, -1 squared. -1 times -1 is 1, times -2 is -2. Okay, so let's do 0 now. -2x squared, so -2, 0 squared. 0 times 0 is 0, times -2 is 0. And -2 times 1 squared, 1 times 1 is 1, times -2 is, and graph it. So -2, -8, -1, -2, 0, 0, 1, -2. And again, remember, it's curved. No straight lines in a parabola. And what can you tell me? I heard, Evangeline, you said something. You noticed a relationship.
Yep.
What'd you find? It's the exact opposite. So what changed about the graph? Like, what changes from graph to graph? Yeah, the negative. And what's negative? Which is what variable? The a value changed. And when the a value went from 2 to -2, what happened to the graph? It flipped over. So we can draw a relationship from that. We can make a rule. If a is positive, the graph opens up. I can know that. If my a value is a positive number, I know it's going to open to the top. It's going to be the letter U. If a is negative, what happens? What? The graph opens down. And this is key. This is something you have to recognize. If your a value is positive, it opens to the top. You guys, when it opens to the top, it's said to have a minimum. Meaning it has a bottom. The graph has a bottom. It has a minimum. If it opens up, the graph has a minimum. And in this one, my minimum is 0. Because the bottom of the graph is at 0. If it opens down, it doesn't have a minimum, it has a maximum, which is a top. And